All right, for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at maybe my most anticipated figure from the year, at least so far, and that is Transformers Age of the Primes, the 13 Megatronus the Fallen. And yeah, I have really wanted a nice design of the Fallen for a long time now, and I'm so pleased that they decided to go with his like DreamWorks design for the most part, rather than like the Prime Wars design or the Covenant of Primus design or the movie design. I just think that this is really the best looking Fallen design. I love him being kind of just like a moving furnace with all the flames and everything like that. And I am really into this figure. He turned out very nice. And yeah, he makes for a decent tank mode here. It's definitely got some like gappy bits here, which I'm not totally in love with, but and then you can kind of see underneath it here. It's not like perfect, but it definitely gets the job done. He honestly shares a lot of things in common with the like Siege / Earthrise Megatron mold, just in terms of like where things end up, which has led some people to speculate that this guy might be like a pre-tool, or at least share a design skeleton with the rumored upcoming studio series Megatron, who obviously is going to turn into a tank rather than a gun because of laws. So, don't hold any illusions about it. Even though studio series is supposed to be super accurate to the original cartoon, don't hold any illusions about it turning into a gun. It's going to be a tank. They've said as much, but the designers have also said that I think I can't really find which one of the designers said this, but I have heard that like one of the designers said that this guy will not be a pre-tool for a Studio Series Megatron, which honestly I hope is true, just because I would like them to not share the exact same design, even if they're similar. But if they did end up going that route, honestly, this would make a pretty good Megatron in terms of like the size and shape and transformation of him. But yeah, no, so decent tank mode here. He can rotate at the turret here, which is nice. Again, it's kind of like off center here, so it's not like a perfect axis of rotation, but it works. He's got little rolling wheels underneath his treads here. It looks super uneven just because like these wheels actually stick out a little bit more and these treads are kind of further up, which makes it look a little bit strange, but it does roll super well and it sits totally nice and flat on the ground there. He does have, obviously, a bunch of accessories, including the Requiem Blaster here, which is just part of his tank mode. Now, it is kind of plugged in, like, it's here and here, but it's not plugged in anywhere in the front, which I think is kind of annoying because, like, really the whole turret section here doesn't stay in place super well. I mean, all the joints are tight enough, so it doesn't, like, have a whole lot of place to, like, flap around or anything, but I do wish that there was at least some sort of attachment point at the front here as well, but whatever. But yeah, in terms of the rest of the stuff that he comes with quite a bit here. He comes with this weapon here, which is just it just comes packaged in two different bits because this is a soft rubber and this is a harder plastic, but there's really no real reason to detach those ever again. But so he comes with this weapon and his sword weapon here, which can combine together to a longer staff, which is kind of cool. He comes with this little missile launcher here, which can just plug on right there. And again, that's pretty much where it always stays. You can just leave it attached to the figure. It just came boxed separately for whatever reason. This one doesn't. It's like on a ball joint instead. And then of course he comes with some blast effects to give him his flame effect in robot mode. Now, in terms of storage for all this stuff, obviously these things can all just stay on there. The sword here, what you're supposed to do is plug it onto the side here, and then there's a peg hole connection here, and then there's a slot tab connection back here for the rubber bit, so it does connect in two different bits, which works well enough. I'll get into why I don't necessarily store it like that in a minute, but in terms of the flame effects here, you are supposed to just plug these onto the top here, the ones that like wrap around his shoulders, and these ones, unfortunately, there's not a great place for. There's a few different things you can do with them, like you could plug them up here to have, like like flame jets kind of coming out of his tank mode, but then it kind of blocks the turret rotation, obviously. They do also have holes on the back here, so I think what you're supposed to do with them is plug them on like this, which I think looks pretty stupid. And if I'm gonna do it that way, I at least want to do it symmetrically. So personally, I choose to store these on the separate sides, even though that tab's not doing anything then. And just have the flame effects kind of attach off of the side here as if they're kind of coming out of the weapons. It's not a perfect solution. I wish that they could like embed somewhere at an angle in here, kind of like sit in like that or something. And there is a hole in there because that's actually where they attach in robot mode, but it's blocked by like one of the hinges, so it can't actually plug in like that. But I just think that that would have been a much nicer solution if there was like some flip out peg or something so they could peg on like that, so they're a little bit more like internal to the tank. You could of course plug them on up here like this, but then they're blocking one of those guns. I wish that there were more like, you know, pegs on this guy, because you could like take off this weapon and have one of them plug on like that, but then, you know, you can't really do the same thing on the other side. So honestly, none of the solutions are super clean. Personally, I just choose to put them on like this and call it a day, and kind of angle them up a little bit so it's kind of like they're ejecting outwards. But I think that there could have been a more elegant solution for those, which is unfortunate. I mean, obviously you could plug them in as blast effects like that, but in terms of just how he is kind of idling. But I do like the flames on the alt mode here. The top turret, like you're supposed to rotate it so the underside of the arms is like showing, because it just sits more in line with the main cannon there. So you do see like the mushroom peg. So having these plugged on there does help cover that up a little bit. And I do think it makes the tank mode look a little bit better, but you know, it doesn't cover up all of the little gaps and stuff like that. But overall, I think it's a fairly decent tank mode here. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see what he looks like with an average size deluxe. Obviously a whole lot bigger there, given that he's a leader class. Here he is with Prima and Solus Prime, the other two primes that have released in this toy line so far, just so you can see what the three of them look like together. I feel like that looks pretty cool. And then last but not least, here he is with Siege Megatron. So you can see a lot of the same sort of orientation for things. Like these end up on his back, the back sections become his legs, his arms, and the cannon become the turret. You know, his chest is kind of folded up here. I can definitely see why people think that they might be using this design for Megatron later. And who knows, maybe they will, but either way, that's what the two of them look like together. But yeah, to get onto transformation, obviously the first thing we really want to do is just take off all the extra stuff and just put it off to the side. He kind of feels like a parts former because he comes with just so many accessories that you kind of have to put off to the side, like the blast effects. This you can leave on there. The gun you can unpeg here, and I did kind of want to see if this could work for Siege Megatron too, because it doesn't. I did try it. It doesn't work super well, but it is possible. Just kind of like imagining a scenario in which Megatron swaps out his fusion cannon for the Requiem blaster. Like, could this actually function as part of his tank mode? And the answer is, kinda, not really, because it's too wide to fit in between his arms, but you can mess with the joints there so it can kind of fit in, but it's definitely not like super clean. You can definitely futz with it in a way that makes it a little bit more clean than that, but you know, generally it works okay, but like there's gonna be some bits on the arms here they're having to like angle out to the side to accommodate the extra width there. So, you know, definitely not a design feature, but it does look kind of cool if you fiddle with it enough. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I was just kind of curious if that would work. Now for the Requiem blaster itself, you actually split it into two parts. You take this bit off, and then this bit you actually like will double hinge up like that to make it a little bit more compact on his arm. And then you flip in this peg. I'm not really sure what the point of this is. Like, it definitely does get it out of the way for this, but like, is it supposed to be able to plug into something like that? I don't know. It seems like you'd kind of always want it in that orientation, but I don't know. But either way, the Requiem blaster does have his little Power of the Primes Megatonus symbol on there. So we'll put all that stuff off to the side and just focus on the rest of the main figure here. Now for the turret itself, you do want to separate it from these panels here, kind of bring the arms out to the side. Just leave them out to the side for now. We'll focus on the legs here. These panels here will detach from this purple panel in the middle there, and then each of the legs will untab from the side here and double hinge down. Again, kind of similar to how the Siege Earthrise Megatron mold works. And then you take this like butt panel basically and just fold it up like that. We want to rotate them around at the thigh here. And then on each leg, you're going to take the treads themselves, open them up, which allows you to flip out the foot, and then close that back up. And then you can just close this panel onto the side of the leg to kind of tab that in place there. So again, pretty simple there. Nothing too crazy. And then we can just take his little side skirts here and fold them down and rotate them around at the waist. And that's pretty much the lower legs all done. Let me just adjust the camera here real quick, because this guy does get obviously quite a bit tall here. And yeah, next step we want to do is handle the backpack stuff here. So basically you untab these from this section, you bring this down, and then you kind of fold this section out here, which allows you to rotate it around and then fold these panels out, and that'll be his chest plate. You can rotate around his robot mode head there, and then just leave this down like this for now. You will kind of want to rotate these 90 degrees, take these bits and rotate them around like that, and just leave them out to the side for now. Then you can fold this the rest of the way onto his back, take these bits of the treads here, they will double hinge into the body there, and then you can take these panels and then compress them onto his backpack. And I really like all the way that all of that works. I think that's really interesting. And then you can take his head panel here and kind of fold it up like that. And before you plug that in, you want to take this panel with the arms, double hinge it in like that, and it will lock into place. And then you can take the chest panel here and fold it down over that and tab this into place. Now, these don't stay super well tabbed in. There's always a bit of a gap there. Like they just don't grip to those tabs well enough, unfortunately, but it's not too big a deal, but it is a little bit annoying. And then you want to take the arms here and just double hinge them into the body just like that. Rotate them around to the forearm. You can take his little weapons and kind of fold those up like that. I guess this one you want to have up like that. And then these panels, these are super tight and honestly like much tighter than is necessary. I hope that kind of like loosens up over time, because as of right now I need a little tool to open it up. Obviously it's not too bad going back because you can grab the hand and fold it up like that, but going out you just really can't. I mean, if you want, you can actually use like one of the weapons that he comes with and just plug it into the arm here like this and just open it up that way. But again, just tighter than is necessary. I hope those wear down a little bit over time. Otherwise I might have to, sand them a little bit because they're much tighter than is necessary. But there we have Megatronus the Fallen in his robot mode. And yeah, this guy looks pretty much exactly like I'd want him to. He's very faithful to the DreamWorks design. He's got a little purple bits added that I guess are kind of references to like the Prime Wars design, which I think works pretty well for him. But gosh, what a head sculpt there. I just love the way that looks. It's super, super dynamic. And I love all the little yellow details here that make him look like he's just burning from the inside. Now, obviously, he comes with quite a bit of stuff here. Not this. Quite a bit of stuff here that we can use to kind of complete his robot mode here. Like we can take the Requiem Blaster and attach it to his arm here, just like that. He does have two pegals here. I definitely prefer the upper one. Now, the screws are on this side, which is kind of unfortunate. So if you want those showing, you could put it on the other arm. I don't know. I still prefer it on his right arm to get him a little bit closer to Megatron, but still, that's a little bit annoying. This bit here actually has a hinged peg there, which you can plug onto his back like this to kind of give him that like Megatron secondary cannon sticking up over the shoulder, which again is another piece of evidence that this at least concept might be used to be, a new version of Megatron like in Studio Series, just because that's such a clearly Megatron design. But, obviously they want to kind of give him some similarities to Megatron. Personally, I choose to just like fold that down like this and leave it on his back, but you can do whatever you want. Now, in terms of the weapons here, he could also, I guess, hold that as a gun if you want him to. Like, that totally works. I mean, it seems a little bit redundant since he's got the huge cannon on his arm, but and then in terms of the weapons here, you obviously can have him hold these separately. Now this one, because it has the peg hole on the side, you do have to kind of like snap it into his hand, which all the plastic and stuff feels robust enough that it can actually handle it. So I'm not too worried about that, but you can't just slide it into his hand like other accessories. Or you can, of course, attach it to the back here and have him hold a longer staff. And it works either way with, either side facing up. But that's just what that looks like there. And yeah, in terms of storage for these, you can, I guess if you wanted to, you could just leave it attached and then peg it onto his back like this. Like that works well enough. But how you're supposed to do it is untab them and then put, one on one side and one on the other, because he does have peg holes up here, which I think are the same ones that the sword like pegged into in vehicle mode, and that works pretty well. It's definitely a lot less obtrusive to the silhouette of the robot mode. But as cool as he looks now, we can make him look even cooler by using the flame effects. These little ones here, you just want to plug in to these ports back here on his backpack, just like that. And then these ones will actually plug into the side of his shoulders here, so they're like wrapping around his arms. And yeah, that is quite the look. I'm so happy that they included the flame effects with him, because that is so cool looking. I really, really like the way that turned out, and they capture light in just a perfect way. These ones are a little bit loose on him, and also like there have been reports in the past about how like if you leave these on over time, not reports about this guy specifically, but like if you leave the blast effects on over time, then they do tend to like bond with the plastic or something like that, or dry out. So it might not be the best idea to keep it on the shelf like this all the time, unfortunately. I might anyway and just see how it goes, because like people have had reports that like their figures stay fine with the blast effects plugged in. So I don't know, maybe it's like another thing that is just like if you keep it in a proper temperature controlled thing, then you won't have that issue. I'm not totally sure how the chemicals work out there. Maybe someone's more knowledgeable about that than I am. But either way, I do really want him on the shelf like this, because the flames really do make him. Obviously, like he looks pretty good without them too. Like, if they didn't come with the flames, I wouldn't be overly bothered. Obviously, you'd probably want to get some like third-party things, but I'm so happy that he comes with these, because it's just such a nice look to have all the flame effects plugged in there and have him just like radiating that heat there kind of coming out of his body. It's such a nice look. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, which can rotate around, get a little bit of wiggle. The shoulders here are on swivels and then can hinge out to the side. And then he also, for transformation, does have this joint here, so you can use that both as a forward and backwards butterfly joint, which is nice if you just unlock it there. Honestly, this arm is a little bit looser than I'd like it to be, especially because it has to have the weight of the cannon there, unfortunately. But in most poses, he's okay. It's just like, tactily, it doesn't like feel as good as it could. He also has a bicep swivel, a little over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. The wrists are on ball joints, but you just get a little bit of wiggle and then can swivel there. The fingers can open in like one big mitt, basically. He's got a nice waist cut here. He's got his little hip skirts that can get out of the way. The hips can go forward and back, and they're on like kind of a weird axis joint here, so they can go a little bit farther up than you sort of expect them to be able to, and go out to the side. It can be kind of annoying dealing with these, because like if you just leave these down and fold his leg forward, it can pop those off or push them out of the way, so I would just be careful with that. He's got two thigh swivels technically for transformation. He's got the one up here and then one sort of like right above the knee. Both function the same way as thigh swivels. It's just a matter of whether or not you want the thigh piece moving with that swivel or not. He's got, again, maybe a degree or two over 90 degrees of bend at the knee there, and then the feet can tilt forward about that far, back about that far, and out to the side. So pretty good foot articulation there. So yeah, pretty decent articulation overall. Really, my only one gripe is that the shoulder, at least on the one side, is a little bit looser than I'd like it to be. But, and it doesn't seem like a particularly easy joint to tighten up. I think you'd have to like take apart the shoulder here and add something to the peg that goes in between the swivel joint there, which is not impossible. It's not like a pin joint where it's like super difficult to tighten up, but I don't know if it's worth it, but either way, so pretty decent articulation there. But in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see how much he towers over an average size deluxe there. In the event that this guy is going to be retooled into Megatron, I don't know if he is, but either way, you know, I figured it would be cool to show him off with these guys. Here he is with Earthrise and Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, just so you can see how he scales with the two of them. If they do this guy as Megatron, I think that scale works in either event. I don't mind Megatron being a bit bigger than Optimus Prime, but that's what they look like together. Speaking of which, here he is again with Siege Megatron there, just so you can see how much taller he is. And I think they look pretty good together. And again, you can, you know, like give him his accessories if you want and have him like have the Requiem Blaster on his arm here. You could even honestly like give him most of the stuff. Like he's got the ports up here, so you can give him the flame effects. He does have ports on his shoulders. They sit a bit higher, but you know, they do. You could plug those in if you want to have like a fully fallen armor version of Megatron. You could even take this and give him his gun barrel thing back here, and he could hold that. I'm not going to bother with all that, but either way, I feel like that's pretty cool as an option there. Just get all of his stuff back here. Leave the flame effects off for now, I guess. But that's what he looks like with him. And then here he is with Prima and Solus Prime, so you can see what he looks like with the other two members of the 13 from this toy line. So far, I think they all look pretty good together. And then here he is with Alpha Trion and Vector Prime, just so you can see what he looks like with a couple other official versions of characters from 13 Primes. And yeah, no, this figure is fantastic. I mean, really, you know, there's some gappiness to the tank mode. I'm not overly bothered by that. Some of his joints are a little bit looser feeling than I'd like, especially like the shoulder joints on his right arm. Like the legs definitely move around a little bit, but the joints are tight enough. Yeah, other than that, he's a pretty fantastic figure. I think he looks fantastic, poses really well, has a really nice, like, interesting engaged transformation, which again does kind of feel like a more complicated version of the Siege Megatron design, which, you know, definitely is why some people are thinking that, you know, this guy might be a pre-tool of Megatron. Like I said, I hope he's not. I hope that they just do a separate thing with Studio Series 86 Megatron when they get to him. But either way, this guy is a really, really cool figure, and I'm definitely happy to have a version of the Fallen here in my collection. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday and Thursday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Age of the Primes, the 13, Megatonus the Fallen.